Agent Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of Spigs18 or Anthony. We have AD or Alpha Dean or just simply Dean. And Dean, why are we here today?
Well, today, we're sitting back with our old friends, the Rule of Lore. I'm about to mess their name up too. Any rate, this is what we're here for. We're going to talk a little bit, as they say, kick the Willy Bobo. Anthony, what exactly are we going to be talking about today?
First off, welcome back, friends.
Hey, thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
So much.
It's been a while, and I know you guys have some exciting news. You have a new live Twitch stream premiere next week. Infinite Horizon.
Horizon, yes.
And just introduce yourselves for audience that hasn't seen any of your content.
All right. Well, I'm Lucas Santana. I'm sort of like the content producer and a GM of our upcoming of Infinite Horizon. I'll be the GM for that.
I'm Freeman Luoma, or Free Range Man, I guess, on some platforms, and I'm playing a character on this Infinite Horizon.
I'm Henry Nolan. I've played in some of our past streams. I'm part of the Rule of Lore crew. I made business cards once, I guess. Twice, I guess. Never mind.
Yeah.
we don't
talk about the first one.
We don't
talk about that one.
What was on those business cards?
Bad graphic design.
In fairness, that was not Henry's fault.
Yeah, no.
He was subject to poor choices on the part of the designer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Alright, but so Infinite Horizon, upcoming Cypher System actual play. So tell us a little bit about it.
We finally did it.
Made our way around, yeah.
Yeah. So Infinite Horizon is actually it's a sci-fi / supers kind of spacefaring adventure. And we're gonna be starting that on what day is that? The 12th, February 12th. And it'll be going Wednesdays at 6 Pacific. But yeah, it's the show that it's the idea that we had ever since we started Rule of Lore. It was sort of that concept that we had at the very beginning. I think when we first talked to you guys, not on your show, but like when we first had a conversation, we were still talking about Infinite Horizon before we started to veer off to kind of some other ideas that we had in the moment.
Dungeons and Dorm Rooms was great, by the way.
Yeah, Dungeons and Dorm Rooms, exactly. That was sort of our proof of concept. Like, let's prove to ourselves we can do this before we do what we really want to do first. And so, but yeah, so Infinite Horizons, I'm super, super excited, and I've been wanting to do this. It's kind of been sitting in the back of my brain for a really long time, and excited to actually dip into sci-fi for the first time in a while. So
you mentioned that it has elements of supers and sci-fi. First question, since we're the Cypher guys, did you utilize Stars of Fire or Unmasked in any way? The super setting and sci-fi setting of Monica Games?
We actually didn't. Everything that we did was kind of based from the core rules, so just from the basic stuff. It's one of those things that we only recently just got our copies of the books, so we're sort of like building from there. But I definitely want to get my hands on some of those in the future and probably utilize some of that stuff for sure.
I mean,
I'm gonna throw. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dean. No, go ahead, Dean.
I'm gonna throw a shameless plug. You do know I have a supplement out for supers.
Okay.
I had no idea.
There's
Really?
There's a supplement out on Drive Through RPG. It's called Heroic Essentials.
All right, he didn't know. Interview over.
No, do their research.
I'm gonna need a link for that sometime, Dean. I'm gonna need a link for that.
I'll send it right on over to you.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. You're running supers, and you know how much we love supers, and you didn't invite us to play.
Hey, listen, we've always got guest spots open, so we'll maybe.
I was just said that you should check Stars of Fire if you plan to have any sort of vehicle combat, because they adjusted. There's some adjustments from the core book to Stars of Fire, which might be really helpful.
That's good to know, because I was looking. That was the thing I was looking, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited about. Looking at sort of like vehicle combat and starship maneuvers and stuff like that. So I'll definitely look into that. It's something it's been on my radar for a while, and I just haven't quite gotten around to it yet. But yeah,
Yeah, I think the Stars of Fire are going to be a very useful toolkit for you as a whole. Like Anthony was saying, the vehicle combat stuff, just some of the things that they deal with, because it kind of gives you the feel of a more scientifically based or physics based, based in truer physics with some of the concepts. So I like it a lot.
cool. Yeah.
But what I was gonna touch on before when you mentioned guest spots, like what's the format of the show gonna be like? Is it gonna be like 2-hour blocks, 3 hours with a break in the middle, like same cast, recurring? Like, well, what's it gonna be like?
Yeah. Well, you wanna...
I'll take this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the plan now is to be close to that 3-hour blocks with a break in the middle, and we have a set cast of 4 players and our GM, and I think the idea of guests like as possible would be really fun. We had when we did Dungeons and Dorm Rooms, we had I think it was actually we only ended up having 1 guest, right?
Yeah.
But that was different because that was like an at the table in person actual play, and this one's going to be remote, and it's going to include some people that we've met through this whole like online TTRPG odyssey, and who we like got to hang out with last Gen Con. So I'm really excited for that.
I mean, that's the beauty of the gaming community. Everybody's so, receptive to one another, and, you meet friends and you get to play online with it, and they become friends for life. So that's awesome that you're incorporating people you met outside of your normal gaming circle.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Another question towards the, Infinite Horizon. Is it going to be, is it a set number of episodes per season? Are you planning to make it reoccurring? Or are we going to just is it just going to be a big sandbox?
Well, that's the thing. Like originally, when we first had the idea of it, we sort of thought about it in pretty loosely television terms, right? Where we would have like a set number of episodes per season. But this go around, I think we've sort of relaxed that a little bit, and we're kind of just letting it go where it goes.
I think that's for the best too.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
I was like, I think it's like 25 episodes that we could do before Gen Con.
That's right. That was that. No, it was less than that.
Less than that, like in the early 20s.
Back then, yeah, that's what we were thinking of back then.
Yeah, but now,
was,
like if we do it now, though.
Yeah, we sort of relaxed on that idea a little bit, just because so I mentioned before how Dungeons and Dorm Rooms was sort of our like proof of concept and learning grounds. One of the things that I learned specifically as the GM of that was that it's really tough to keep to a structure in that way, especially when you want to let players do whatever they're going to do, because you can never really predict exactly like how long things are going to take, or like what curves might come along the way. So I'd much rather leave us open to that rather than like rein things in to like try to keep to some sort of arbitrary schedule. So yeah,
I mean that kind of leads into my next question is what kind of actual gameplay is it? Is it going to be scripted, or are you guys going to have discussions of the actual material beforehand, or is it going to be more like freewheeling at a table?
Much closer to the table. It's going to be as dramatic as we can possibly make it, but purely improvised. Other like on the part of the players anyway. GM side is a little bit, although I'm not even sure that I've shared this with you guys yet, but like even as far as like the storyline goes, there's like going to be structurally there's loose story beats that like there is an overarching story in there, but for the most part it's up to the players to either stumble into it themselves or to just sort of make other decisions that lead them other places.
My favorite kind of gameplay.
There's something to be said for both forms of especially streaming it on media. Media is an entirely different beast, than playing at home with your friends. You have to provide some sort of entertainment that's external from your group that, you have people watching. So I could totally understand, having some sort of structure.
Yeah.
If if I could be so bold as to like throw it out there, you sound like you already got the whole idea, Lucas. Anyway, but you know, I would just write a story for each season, and however many episodes it takes to get through that story is however many it takes.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And that's honestly, that's probably much closer to how things are going to go this time around. Like we'll have like these like arcs, and that like however long it takes to get through that, I might just arbitrarily decide when a season, so to speak, is over, where we came to this milestone moment. That's the season, you know, that kind of thing. And yeah.
Go ahead, Dean. Say what you were gonna say.
Finish
No, I was gonna say, you know, we do actual plays, but we do a lot of one shots. So this is very this conversation is kind of fascinating to me because I really like to, you know, like to analyze, you know, doing a full campaign and trying to keep it open-ended has to be a lot more difficult than, you know, we normally record like a kooky one shot and you have like a loose framework and you just let the players go gonzo, you know, because with a one shot, you basically need to craft the intro and the ending, and you'll get to the ending somehow. But when you're crafting a campaign, you know, that's a different mindset that, you know, you have to undertake as a GM. So what lessons did you learn from dorm rooms that you think you could apply to this?
The biggest one right away is that in Dungeons and Dragons, I felt so often like I was hyper aware of the streaming portion of it. And so I tended to change the way I did things based on that. Sometimes that was good and sometimes it wasn't. I felt like more often than not it wasn't. And it often got in the way of the storytelling that I felt like we could be doing, for me anyway, on my end as the DM. And so this time around, I'm knowing that going in, it's going to sort of change how I approach the game, just in terms of how I run at the table and how I plan, basically.
And for the two of you as players, that I think that's also applies. Like, what's the difference? What do you learn from doing dorm rooms that, you know, it's going to be different the second time around?
I got a little answer, but I'll let Henry go first because I heard him just about to speak.
Well, it is different to be like aware of a camera, right, and to behave yourself at the table and try to like keep your head up. Like I spend a lot of time hunched over a character's sheet like this, and I had to try to evict that habit. And I also, even in like non-recorded games, I have a tendency to like stamp my foot and try to get people to move forward when people are caught up in like analysis paralysis or whatever. And like that, I think that's kind of a beneficial trait in a streamed game where you're trying to keep a rhythm and keep people entertained. Whereas I think it bothers people when I do that sometimes in non-stream games, right? Because it can be fun to sit and plan for 45 minutes, but it's less fun to watch that on a stream.
You don't do any cuts, right?
No.
So Henry badgering the people to hurry up. It's in all the stream.
If it's there, it's there.
Yeah. On stream, you have to do it subtly or like so forcefully that it just is in character and it just happens. Like, yep, we're gonna sign this demonic contract right now. It's happening.
We've been also playing for long enough that we can kind of feel each other out, you know, at the table. That's a huge help.
Yeah. And that, sorry, I'll let you answer your thing because I have my thing is separate. But.
Oh gosh, that's right. I guess this time around, the thing that helped the most, I know we had a session 0 for DNVR, but I like the one-on-one session 0. I got a little more like, it's just me, it's just Lucas, we're just hanging out, and my character can kind of like do his own thing, and that really helped me kind of warm up to the character and get into it. And,
you guys actually posted that on YouTube. I think I saw a link today I didn't get to watch it, but I saw something on Twitter.
That is the thing that we're doing with these. Each of the characters is getting sort of like their one-on-one session 0. So the first part of it that isn't recorded is sort of talking through the character, talking through backstory, figuring out Cypher. One of the cool things that I love about Cypher is that there's no narrative dictated in the mechanics. So like anything that exists as part of the character, you can decide what the flavor of that is. And so part of that unrecorded part of the session 0 is talking through what the flavor of each character's abilities is going to be. In this case, sort of like what their superpowers look like. But then the recorded version, the recorded part of the session 0 is sort of like a prologue story for each of the characters, sort of an introduction for each one of them. And I'm
cool.
really, really liking how that's turning out.
too.
We did we actually recorded the last one of them today.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter and I was like, oh, I was going to watch it. But then, we were recording earlier than this.
yeah.
Actually,
I didn't have time.
and that's really going to be the biggest problem. You guys are going to be doing your show on Wednesday at 6 Eastern time.
Yeah.
I mean Pacific time, and that's the same time we record here.
Yeah.
But you could always go back,
And
Twitch.
watch later. Yeah.
You could always watch later on Twitch. That's how I
Yeah.
found them.
No.
Watching
That's not-
later.
Yeah, I understand that,
Twitch.
but that's going to impede me from becoming a guest star.
And
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
that just means
I
one
mean,
Wednesday we all have to be guest
because
stars.
they record Ramblemancy on Fridays. You see, I know. See, I'm the true rule of law fan here.
No,
because
There it
he doesn't know their schedule.
But I'm talking about
they
me.
record actual plays on Wednesdays and the Ramblemancy.
I know, but I'm saying I want to be on the superhero show.
Yeah.
Superheroes, me and superheroes. You know what? We're just gonna give up a Wednesday and come on your show.
There you go.
You're gonna meet the guys on the unlimited special. That's gonna be our exclusive.
Yeah.
Do y'all guys use power shifts?
We do actually. We're using power shifts.
I love power shifts.
I love them too. They're so great.
Yeah.
They're so simple, such a
Yes.
good, like,
Yeah.
direct way to indicate
Yeah.
superpoweredness.
Yes.
I mean, it's the elegance of the system in a whole. Everything is a very simple ruling. Dean.
I was just saying, did you guys also really look at it? Because like we do something with power shifts that is only kind of implied lightly in the game, and that's that power shifts don't necessarily always have to be just just an easement or something on an ability. Because like what we did in one of our games, like Anthony's character, I always use his character as an example. We used a power shift for him to develop a power stunt. His character who was called the Heater, and he was a baseball themed superhero. So his character threw these flaming, had a baseball bat that he would smack these baseballs with. Well, we had a power shift for him, so he could throw one of his balls up and smack it with the bat, and it would burst into 3 different balls and attack 3 characters.
Ooh.
But that was his power shift.
Instead of building on like easing a task, you augment powers instead. You make
Right.
power, so you'll like waste a power shift to make an ability stronger.
Make it
Yeah.
stronger or make it different.
We've definitely done that with one of the characters because she is a speaker, and a lot of the speaker abilities are ones that don't necessarily benefit from like levels of effort.
Yeah.
And so we found ways of like applying the power shifts to those specific powers by sort of like messing a little bit with how they work. And it was really cool. It really did illustrate the elegance of the system for me because of how easy it was to do that, to make the system do what I wanted it to do.
Exactly.
But
And, I'll have to share. I'm sorry. I'm gonna just say I was gonna share with you. Somebody had asked me to do it before. I created Captain America as a speaker, and it's so badass. I have to share it with you.
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
But now that we are talking about characters, could you tell us about the characters in Infinite Horizon? Or do you want to keep that a mystery for viewers?
I'm kind of wondering, actually.
You know what? Actually, we were gonna wait to reveal characters for a while, but you know what? I actually think we can give you guys a Cypher Unlimited exclusive.
Oh, that's awesome.
Exclusive.
Yeah. So, and I can speak for the 2 that aren't here, but if you
Fair
guys
enough,
want to
fair
talk a little bit about yours.
Yeah.
Or just give us your character sentences. Save
Yeah.
some mystery. Give us the cool character sentences. How about that?
All right. I'll go first. I'm a grizzled 33-year-old detective who is working a case and finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time.
What's the character sentence?
The sentence would be you can't hack paper.
No, the Cypher one.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My bad.
I want to know what you can't hack paper means, though.
That's a phrase that Lucas coined.
That's why you can't.
I dig it.
I dig it. I got it.
He is.
We're a bunch of GMs. You can't give us any information without us. You know,
I hear
our
you.
minds wandering somewhere else. I'm sorry.
Let's see. What was it? Guarded explorer who solves mysteries. That was it.
Nice.
Is guarded in the core. Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many. That's the thing. Like this is a tiny tangent, but we are still really new to the Cypher system, right? There's a bunch in the stuff in the core rulebook that we still need to like explore, like, and then we'll move on to all the supplements and stuff. And
Well, I will say this though, you're one DM away from a group of guys that pretty much know everything about the system.
I know that's what. Yeah.
So if you
We're on
need
different
any
levels
help,
here.
Just one day when you guys are in the middle of recording, you'll just get a message from me, be like, hey Dean, how does this work in Cypher?
Listen, I mean, and here's the really biggest thing. If you guys remember, Cypher is all about the nuances.
Yeah.
The rules are there's 25 pages of rules
Yeah.
in a 400-page book. Everything else is nuance.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So Henry.
Oh yeah. Hey, my character is a naive adept who controls gravity.
Oh, that's a fun one. That's a fun
Yeah.
guy.
I'm so excited for it.
We also have our two other players, Caitlyn Bruder and Olivia. Caitlyn is playing an empathic speaker who blazes with radiance.
Oh, that's a fun
Nice.
one.
Yeah.
And then Olivia is, oh gosh, I'm not even sure if I remember. Hers was the first one that we recorded, the first session 0 that we recorded, so it was a couple weeks ago. Oh man, I can't believe I'm blanking on this one.
I guess
What's
that
her
character
power?
would be a super
Her power,
mystery.
I know that hers is the awakens dreams. She's a speaker who awakens dreams. I don't remember what the
Oh,
descriptor
okay.
is.
That's
Nice.
another very cool
You know what, that
focus.
is
Yeah.
really cool. I was just looking at that the other day.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
she's kind of a, so with the two of them, she's kind of a she described her power as sort of like she can reach into people's people's dreams and sort of like manipulate their minds through that sort of like dream state.
Exactly.
And then the other one, Caitlyn, who is also our character artist for the show coming up, and actually for Dungeons and Dorm Rooms, she did our art for that. She is going to be her character is sort of from an alien species that we made who they're sort of like an empathic sort of species, and they're kind of like insectoid, and they have a little bit of like glow bug sort of stuff happening with them. So her power is basically just everything that her species can do, but more, but super powered. So
I mean, so that brings us to the world. So you mentioned that you have an alien race. Is there multiple alien races? Is this like Earthling? Is Earth, does Earth exist in your universe?
So the setting for Infinite Horizon is in a kind of homebrew new galaxy, where humans are actually in the minority because they just due to some lost reasons left the Milky Way galaxy and found themselves arriving in a new galaxy kind of in the middle of a conflict, and their arrival there sort of changed a whole bunch of stuff, but humans are sort of in the minority, and everything else is all the other alien species are, at the time when Infinite Horizon starts, is they are sort of in a fragile equilibrium in terms of like the political structures and like conflict and that kind of stuff. So
sounds cool.
Yeah, plenty of room for this to go in lots of different ways.
I dig it.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to say earlier to your point about the like narrative sort of stuff, and sort of like Anthony, how you mentioned about like how part of it is, streaming is, you have to sort of be cognizant of like the entertainment portion of it. And one of the things for me that made me feel more confident this time around, doing sort of the more open-ended kind of style of game is in large measure due to our group. I've played games with everybody in this group, some of them for the first time at Gen Con this past year, and one of the reasons it's taken us so long to put Infinite Horizon together finally is that we knew that in order to do it right, we had to have the right group of people.
Yeah.
And like right now, I'm pretty confident after doing all of these session zeros with everybody that we have it, and we have a group of people that I'm so excited to work with because every single one of them has that sort of like dramatic sense. Like they've got that way of taking a scene and just running with it, you know? So I'm really, really looking forward to that.
You know, when we first started interviewing streamers, you know, I always thought it was awkward and weird that most streamers would say, oh, we audition, you know, people for our streams, because I was always, you know, the pickup GM. You play with who you know, I play with strangers, you know, 9 out of 10 times I'm playing with strangers, you know, people on the server or at conventions. But now that we're trying to stream ourselves, I absolutely get it. Like finding the group that's on camera just has, you know, they have that certain it factor. Yeah.
They click. Definitely needs to click.
Yeah, you gotta have chemistry with the people you're playing with. Number one, the other thing
on stream you do, like in person, not so much.
I mean, in person not so much, but definitely on stream. Something else that I've begun to notice too, you know, with all of this, like I was always a campaign GM, you know, and then I found Cypher System and I found Cypher Unlimited. I haven't run anything but mini campaigns or one shots for the last 4 years now. So, you know, to see you guys coming to do something like this is inspiring, exciting, and I'm probably going to be watching a little closely because I'm going to take some notes, because some way, somehow I'm going to try to get these guys to do something too. Maybe at least, you know, once a month or something, we'll do something. But I need to tell a full story. You know, these one shots are awesome, but I understand your desire, Lucas. I understand it so much.
Yeah. I've never been a fan of running one shots just because like
what? Interview over.
The second time or how many times this interview gonna end?
This thing is getting cut up with like scissors.
Yeah. Like I don't mind. I enjoy playing in one shots and that kind of stuff, but I'm like you, Dean, where I like the freedom to be able to tell a story in like beginning to end in an organic sort of like naturally building kind of way, you know, and that's what I like doing.
Well, you know, we normally do play one shots, but I do have a home game for the first time in a long time, and
nice.
It's a campaign, I guess you would call it, but it's really nice because it's essentially being run in the way that you're saying. You have an arc set, and you'll just take as many sessions as you need to get to the end of it. Yeah. And it's been really nice being able to watch my friends, my coworkers, develop their characters in sort of like this organic way and still tell my story. And it's awesome. It's fun.
And that's what I miss so much about that. You know, I really thought, you know, like, and if you're out there watching, you know, you people know who you are. I have my home group. I was getting ready to introduce them to Cypher and thought we were going to get this campaign going. And, you know, these guys, they actually decided to tell me that 6 hours of game time wasn't enough and canceled on me.
Wow.
Like, so you know what? Fine. I'm going to give it to somebody else. I got time now, guys. Yeah.
All right, and in the defense of one shots, most great campaigns have started off with a great one shot.
That's true.
So that's all I'm gonna say. And the reason why I prefer one shots, I think, is because I have individual stories to tell. I'm more the Twilight Zone guy. Like I have that, like this really cool idea. And I feel like you dilute the story if you stretch it out. You know, but my brain just works that way. I don't think of, like 9 sessions. I think of like this 6-hour block of time or this 4-hour block of time. And, I try to come up with the most creative idea and let the players build, fill in that story. And I also like ending games with cliffhangers. There's something about that I enjoy as a GM.
One-shots are awesome.
Yeah.
One-shots are the linchpin to pull you in, and I get it, but that whole thing to watch a character go from, even though in Cypher, even though you don't start at 0, you don't start out 0, but that 0 to hero feeling, to see a progression, an arc, to be able, I mean, come on, you look at these books and you look at your foci, and we're playing tier 1 characters, but what about that tier 4 power that you never get to implement into the game?
Yeah.
Those things are what draw me in. And Cypher has such a rich...
You want a one-shot at tier 4.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same.
You just brought something up that's a good question for you guys. Coming from D&D, which is more of the 0 to hero format, Cypher isn't really designed that way. You're pretty much competent. You're at first level. Was that a difference in your game design?
Not so much from the GM side of it, no. And I think the reason is because Cypher is, as much as like I sort of come from like a D&D tradition, Cypher is much closer, I think, to how I run games anyway, which is that like most of like you said, you're competent at lower tiers, but most of the progression that I'm interested in with characters is narrative progression. So like, and that could translate into like the mechanical stuff, but the progression that I'm interested in when I'm running games is, how does your character change over time? How do your characters change the world over time? Those are the things that I'm interested in when I'm running games. So it didn't really change a lot for me anyway. I don't know about for you guys for planning, but
well, for me, it's the difference isn't just that tier 1 Cypher System characters are competent. It's that the rules don't funnel you into playing the role of somebody whose like job is to go fight stuff, right? Like generally a D&D class would be, for example. So my character is like a permanent college student who lives with his aunt and wakes up with Fritos in his beard every morning, like. And then the explanation for why he can do powerful things is the litmus, that's not the right word, but the like Keystone super event where he gets his powers, right?
Yeah.
So it's way more freeing, I think, the way to start a character in Cypher.
Yeah,
and,
I like
also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Free.
Oh, what was I saying? I like that my character already has like something he's been doing as like a career or whatever, and that he's already has like a set of skills, and that the next thing, like we've already said, the next thing that makes it the next level is the superpowers that they acquire. But he already has like technically he has something going on anyway. Again, I don't want to spoil anything.
But I think that's what it is with Cypher System. It's not just abilities; it's the character itself. So when I say 0 to hero, I mean, you think about that, and I think superheroes also is a better design idea that works in that realm too. Because if you think about it, most superheroes get their set of powers, and that's it. There's not a bunch of variations or additional stuff. It just maybe I get more power, or guess what, I figure a way to use it in a more subtle manner or something like that, as opposed to, oh look, new power, or new ability. Right. So that being said, how are you going to handle that like in your story?
So I think this is what you're asking, but basically what I'm going to do for the most part is, as far as that kind of change in the characters, I'm mostly leaving it up to the players to define that for themselves. As like, because nobody but the players knows any better than nobody would know better than them how like their character is changing, and how the changes that like rising up in tiers in Cypher dictates that they change, right? Nobody, like, they're the only ones who can decide like what that mechanical change that's coming down the line means for them narratively. And so that's pretty much like how I like to have it. You know, in D&D, you know, you get to the next level and you get these things because the book tells you to, and it's, you can define that narratively, but there's not really any incentive to but the way that Cypher is designed, it kind of puts a lot more onus on the players to do that kind of thing.
On the mechanical side, how are you gonna deal? Are you gonna allow the player intrusions like the new Cypher System core rulebook allows?
Yeah.
And would you be? How are you gonna utilize GM intrusions, which is, you know, the GM's best friend?
I love both concepts, the GM intrusion and the player intrusion. One of the things I always say is as both a player and as a GM, I love chaos, organized chaos, the kind of chaos that kind of helps things and enhances the game, not the kind that destroys it. So the kind I love that kind of thing, the unpredictable nature of the player intrusions and the GM intrusions. I love that kind of thing. As for how I'm going to use GM intrusions, I guess we'll see. You know?
I have a question about the player intrusions. Now, in the book, you know, they give you suggestions of the player intrusions per type, per archetype. Are you going to kind of put your people beholden to that kind of thought process, or are you just going to let the player intrusions be gonzo? Because, you know, when we first started using them, we charged 2 XP, and players could do all sorts of wild
Pretty
things.
much what a GM could do.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was just on a smaller personal scale. But yeah, they could do.
I really haven't thought about it, to be honest. But I always like, and Cypher's really good about this, but I always like any system that puts narrative power back in the hands of the players. I guess my answer is pretty much that I'm just going to see what happens, and if it needs tweaking, then it needs tweaking, but otherwise, you know.
I think systems like Cypher System, Fate, you know, the more narrative-based games actually more entertaining to stream. They're more enjoyable for the viewer, because when you have a loose-knit set of rules that is more narrative-based, it's a lot easier to keep the story flowing.
Definitely. That's actually a good answer to the question that you asked earlier about like the things that I've learned. Part of this is that I've learned that I don't know that I would ever stream, like I wouldn't run a streamed D&D game again, because I felt like the D&D's mechanics often got in the way of a narrative that was good for streaming, right? Like at the table, I don't think we ever have that problem, but for streaming, it definitely was a thing.
Yeah, because the pauses at a home game,
right?
You know, there's no one watching, you know, so it's like you get rule clarification, and it's not ruining anyone's enjoyment.
Yeah,
but filming is an entirely different beast.
And
hold on, I was just gonna say Matt Mercer. You know, Matt Mercer uses 1/3 of the rules, so it doesn't apply to Critical Role because he's making up his own rules as he goes along. Most of his videos, anyway. Yeah. You know, he basically plays 1/3 of 5th edition if you really look at.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you know, when you look at Cypher, you know, Charles Ryan makes a statement that the rules are for the players. You know. And there's just enough rules not to get in the way. You know, you as a GM are free. You know, you're truly free. So GM intrusions allow you to adjust on the fly. You know, it allows you to, you know, when a player does something totally and utterly off the wall, bonkers, to the left of the rails that you were on, you're going, okay, I got a GM intrusion. You know, you pull things back in, and the player still feels great because they got to do what they wanted to do. You know, you as a GM said, okay, my game is still solid.
Right. So. Yeah, you keep it's not as swingy. You keep an equilibrium. because like that's a thing that I noticed even recently in our home D&D game, where like they're playing at 17th level now in D&D, and it's really hard to keep a rein on power creep, you know. It's and sometimes you'll throw stuff at them, and God, what was it? I think it was like a really high level demon that
It was that bull thing that
the
rammed the wall down.
and in
Yeah.
like 2 rounds, they had almost less than 2 rounds they took it down. And like that kind of thing doesn't happen as much in Cypher, because if somebody rolls well, you can still sort of say, okay, cool, but GM intrusion, you know.
Keep the balance.
Yeah.
I mean, what else?
No, but that leads me to another question about how you're going to handle the progress of the characters in your game. Are they going to be spending EXP on advancements for themselves, or are there going to be like milestones in the story where, hey, they get, you know, to tier 2, or they earn 2 advancements? Do they want to speak on that a little bit, or?
It's not something that we've discussed a lot. My inclination is to sort of let it be the like somewhere in between, mostly based on spends, like the way that it's sort of describes in the rules. But then every once in a while, if something like extraordinary happens, then and it feels appropriate, like absolutely, here we go, we're ranking up, you know.
I like that.
So yeah.
And just to throw it out there real quick, you know, check out one of our we did a gym roulette. Check out the one where Anthony started us off as supervillains. You know, we were like second class supervillains, and you'll see a prime example of the party, like, you know, being able to initially beat the dog squad out of the big bad, and a GM intrusion was able to flip it and make it a little bit more interesting. And it wasn't your typical, oh, I'm just going to add more bad
Right.
guys.
Yeah.
You know, I literally, you know, because I didn't know what I was going to be dealing with, I literally just shifted the focus of what the bad guy was doing, but I did it with a GM intrusion. So look at those type things, you know, and you ever want to talk about them, you know, get with us, because we've got a ton of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, you know, any final thoughts on, you know, the upcoming actual play Infinite Horizons? Like, where can we, or Horizon, excuse me, singular, and like, will it be posted updates on Twitter, Facebook? Like, where can we see more about this online?
Yeah, mostly we update as to like when we're going live and all that kind of stuff. We update on Twitter primarily. That's kind of where Rule of Lore lives, is on Twitter, just at Rule of Lore. This time around, unlike Dungeons and Dorm Rooms, we are planning on releasing to YouTube as well. So it'll be available there. So yeah, I mean, like that's kind of the long and the short of it, but pretty much Twitch is, I mean, we always wanted to make sure that the live stream medium was like our main, that's kind of our thing. That's where we tend to live, and the YouTube stuff is just as kind of an archive. So a more like familiar platform to a lot of people. So, you know, if they want to catch it there, they can. Twitch is not a friendly platform in a lot of ways. So
For that,
especially to people who aren't users of it normally. So
could you give us a start time again, so
Yeah.
our viewers, in case they didn't pay attention in the beginning?
Yeah. It'll be starting at 6 p.m. Pacific time.
And that'll be Wednesday next week,
Wednesday.
right?
Yeah. It starts. Premiere date is on February 12th.
I think that's
So,
next week.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
The same day, not to toot on all horns, but the same day we interviewed Sean K. Reynolds, the writer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So cool.
That's awesome.
That reminds me. I want to say like
And
congrats
we'll
you
also
guys
be
on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
congrats
also be
on-
live on Twitch.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on like this month's content. I
Yeah.
heard you guys were doing the new GM month. So like with
Yeah,
like,
thanks. That was
It's
awesome.
been a blast. But we'll be sure to add all the links to, you know, our video of your Twitch, your Twitter, And what was the third thing? I feel like was the third thing we're linking. Oh, your YouTube page where we
YouTube, yeah.
uploaded to afterwards. You know, once you're
I
done.
got all that information. I'll
Yeah.
post it.
Yep. So we'll be sure to add that down below. So viewers, be sure to follow, give their pages likes, whatever have you. I think
Yeah.
it's called follows on Twitter. I'm sorry, I'm super out of the loop.
I have one last thing to say that I just remembered about Infinite Horizon to sort of like tease something a little bit. So the reason that it is Infinite Horizon, it's intentional. This took us so long in their writers room to figure this out, to finally name the show. But so the Infinite Horizon problem is actually something that comes from statistics, and it's something that comes up in studies of statistics systems, and the Infinite Horizon problem is a problem where in those systems where all of the factors are, I'm not a mathematician, so this is going to be my best understanding. It's of a system where there are random factors, such as like the growth of a population or like the growth of like artificial intelligence and that kind of thing, right? And the problem states that essentially that there's no way to predict the way that a system like that will evolve without a specified end date. So that thereby creating an infinite horizon of growth.
Nice.
So that was an intentional name that has something to do with the show itself and some of the themes up behind it. So just a quick little tease. I'm not sure that that's common knowledge even amongst our group. So
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
The whole thing is a big old metaphor that's so complicated nobody can understand.
that's the trick with metaphors. You gotta make they mean something because they mean nothing or anything.
That's the kind of metaphor
they
you
mean
wake up.
everything.
I said that's the kind of metaphor you wake up 3 years from now, like, oh, that's what the hell he meant.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that moment 3 years from now when it finally clicks. But either way, that sounds very exciting. I can see my mind is already racing with the possibilities you can go with stories just based on that little description of Infinite Horizon theory or whatever you call it. But yeah, it's been an awesome talk. Thank you guys so much for being on, talking about your upcoming actual play. Any
thanks for having
closing
us.
final thoughts, fellas?
I mean, just to say, it's great having you guys back on. And, Rule of Law, I enjoy your contact. And all viewers, please check them out because they do awesome stuff. The actual plays and Ramblemancy is just them BSing about gaming, which is what I enjoy the most. So definitely check them out there. And, you guys are great. And I'm happy to have you back.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us back. We always love talking with you guys.
Yeah.
So
I missed you. Thank you so much.
Aw.
Well, thank you. We missed you too.
Yeah.
And to all our viewers out there, be sure to again give these guys some nice follows. They're awesome. Be sure to for our stuff, like, share, subscribe, get our stuff out there. Be sure to hit the little bell notification, so we know when we post videos. And thank you all for being so awesome. And from us at the CU, we will see you later.